What is up, book nerds? I am Rachel Bateman, and I just want to jump on for a quick video chat with you today about something I've seen a lot on Instagram this last week. Over on Instagram, as part of Preptober leading up to NaNoWriMo next month, I'm hosting a daily challenge that gives prompts for what you should post and talk about. And one of the prompts this week was, are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Now, if you've been in the writing community for any amount of time, you know this is like a really hotly contested thing. You're either a plotter and you spend a ton of time really pre-planning and outlining your book, or you're a pantser and you prefer to just sit down and write and see what happens and go by the seat of your pants. Or you fall somewhere in between and you're what people like to refer to as a plantser, meaning you plan some things about your book ahead of time, but then you just discovery write to see where it goes along the way as you write your first draft. So those were the kinds of answers I expected to see from that prompt, and I did see a lot of answers like that. But the answer I got, probably more than any other, went something like this. I really wish I were a plotter, but plotting the book out ahead of time takes out the newness and the discovery and the joy of writing. So I wish I could be organized and I wish I could plan ahead of time, but I can't because it's boring to write something when there's nothing to discover. I actually used to think this, and so I wouldn't pre-plan or plot, and then I realized that all those books I was writing kind of sucked because I didn't know how to structure them, so I started plotting. But my point of this discussion is to tell you a quick story about NaNoWriMo 2019 so I can address this idea of plotting taking out the joy and discovery of writing something new. My Nano 2019 book is called Make the Fireflies Dance, and I got the idea for that book on January 24th of 2019. So from January 25th to October 31st of 2019, I was planning out this book. I went back and read the source material because it is a reimagining of an old Anton Chekhov short story that I had read like a decade and a half ago. I reread that in a couple different translations. I really studied up on it. I figured out who my characters were and what the plot was going to be. I really dug deep to figure out how all these pieces work together. I spent 9 months planning and plotting the book out. I had hundreds of pages of notes and a detailed outline. So I sit down to write on November 1st, and it is going great. And then about 4,000 words into the book, a character enters the scene that I had never imagined before. It's a brand new character that did not come up in 9 months of planning and plotting this book. But I just rolled with it, and before long, this character was a fairly significant character in the story, and not only was he a fairly significant character, he brought out some backstory and history about my main character and her family that was vitally important and impactful to her story at 4,000 words after planning for 9 months. Fast forward a couple weeks and I'm getting to about the midway point of my book when I realize that the love interest is the wrong character. 9 months of planning where this story is going to be, and after writing halfway through, I realized that the person I thought she was going to end up with wasn't the person she should end up with. And there wasn't some kind of love triangle going on and I just picked wrong. There was a character who wasn't even a consideration really for being my main romantic lead, who ended up, it really needed to be that person. And this character that I thought was going to be my romantic pairing for my main character, it just wasn't what was needed for those characters. So here I was with 9 months and hundreds of pages of outline, and I still discovered amazing new things about my story as I was writing the first draft. I'd be willing to bet that stuff like this happens pretty much every time an outliner or a plotter goes on to write their first draft. Maybe not as drastic as realizing that your love interest is the wrong person, but new characters come in and new plot points that you never considered come, because no matter how prepared you are and how much pre-plotting and planning you've done to write your book, things are going to crop up as you're writing and your brain is still working and ideas are still flowing, and you're going to have that. You're going to have new ideas and new characters and new fun things come, and it is still exciting and still gives you that rush of finding out what your story is. Now, if you are a hardcore pantser and pantsing works for you, you can sit down and write by the seat of your pants and get a valid book at the end. Don't change what you're doing because I am saying that you should plot. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I've talked to dozens of authors over the last couple months who are dead set on the idea that if they plot ahead of time, it will ruin the discovery and newness of writing the first draft. But most of these authors whom I've talked to have never finished a book. So what I'm saying is if you're in that camp and you have yet to finish a book, maybe realize that pantsing is not working for you right now and try something new. I tell my story about my book I wrote last November because I want you to realize that even when you have planned out super details about what's going to happen in your book, you can still have the discovery and the newness that comes with pantsing. Also, if you're depending on the rush of writing and working on a new idea to get you through writing a book, I have really bad news for you when it comes time for edits. Okay, y'all, I'm trying to keep this really short because I know we all have a lot of things to do to get ready for NaNoWriMo. Even if you aren't a plotter, there are a lot of things in like our real normal lives that need to be taken care of ahead of November. So I will try not to ramble on too long here. I just really want to reiterate that if you are a pantser and that works for you, that's great. But if you're struggling and pantsing isn't working for you, but you are afraid to pre-plot and outline your book, know that outlining doesn't have to mean it is going to ruin the joy of writing for you. Writing is still wonderful and you still experience new things and come up with new ideas in the process of writing and along that journey of making your first draft, even if you have outlined. So don't be afraid of plotting or outlining because you think it's going to squash your creativity or your joy or your newness or whatever. Go ahead and give it a try because I have experienced it, and I know many other authors who have experienced it and can tell you that outlining ahead of time will not necessarily ruin the newness and the rush of writing that first draft. All right, y'all, let me know how Preptober is going for you so far. What did you accomplish during the first week? Are you outlining your book? Are you planning ahead? Or are you just waiting for November 1st? Sound off in the comments. Let me know what is going on in your writing life. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and of course subscribe if you haven't already. I am Rachel Bateman and I will see you back here next week.